Hello everybody. Today we'll discuss about the man who outsmarted the system. Imagine a man standing in front of a massive steel vault. Behind that door, billions, not in cash, not in gold, in power. The kind of power you only get when you control the flow of money. Now, here's the twist. This man doesn't have an army, he doesn't even have a gun. What he has is a mind that refuses to play by other people's rules. If the game is rigged, he once said, don't fight the players, reprogram the game. Act 1. The game everyone plays without knowing it. Most people spend their whole life inside the system without ever noticing it. You work, you get paid, you pay taxes, you consume, you save a bit if lucky, and then you die in debt. But our man, let's call him Leon, wasn't built for that loop. Leon grew up in a city where money felt like oxygen, invisible yet controlling everything. His father worked 2 jobs and still couldn't afford proper heating. Banks rejected every loan, taxes grew, prices grew, and Leon started asking questions most people are too tired to ask. Or why does the bank make more on my money than I do? Why are debts profitable, but only for the people who lend them? And if money is just numbers in a system, who decides the rules of that system? He spent nights reading financial reports like other kids read comic books. That's where he noticed the system wasn't just unfair, it was predictable. In other words, predictably unfair. And rule number 1 of the financial system, whoever controls timing and information controls the flow. Act number 2, the first crack in the wall. Leon didn't have power, but he had time and brain wired like a hacker. He started where most people never look: tax codes, regulations, fine print. He discovered something fascinating. Every financial system has pressure points, rules written to protect the wealthy but technically open to anyone sharp enough to read them right. For example, tax shelters written for corporations can, in some countries, be legally used by private individuals if structured right. Depreciation on assets can create paper losses without losing real value. Interest rates behave like predictable tides for those who understand central bank behavior. And Leon began building a map of these pressure points, like a strategist mapping enemy defenses. If you know where the walls bend, he said, you don't have to break them, you just walk through. Act number 3, how he flipped the rules. Here's where it gets delicious. While most people saved money, Leon borrowed it. While most people feared debt, Leon made debt his weapon. He noted that banks love borrowers who look poor on paper but own appreciating assets. So he started buying a depressed real estate, not with his own money, but with leveraged loans structured through legal tax vehicles. Each property increased his debt on paper, reduced his taxable income, while the properties grew in value quietly in the background. The system thought, this man in debt. But Leon knew, I just made the government pay me to get richer. And he didn't stop there. He started stacking financial instruments like Lego bricks. and things like real estate for deprecation and application, corporate shells for tax optimization, paper losses that created real liquidity, interest-only loans that let him keep cash moving. The magic was not in breaking the law, it was in understanding it better than the people who wrote it. Act number 4. Why others failed, where he won. Many people try to copy Leon's strategy later. Most fail. Why? Because they did not understand what he really did. It was not about so-called buying property or getting rich with debt. It was about outthinking the timing. He did not take loans when banks were aggressive. He took them when banks were desperate. Things like recessions, liquidity crunches, panic phases. He didn't buy when prices were high. He waited for waves of forced selling. He did not rush to sell for profit. He borrowed against the profit, so he never triggered taxable gains. That's the quiet game the system never teaches in the school. Most people think wealth is about what you earn, but Leon knew wealth is about what you control without appreciating, without appearing to own it. Act number 5, the invisible man of money. By his mid-40s, Leon technically owned almost nothing. No luxury cars, no personal mansion, no big flashy purchases. Everything was held by layers of companies. Everything was financed by debt that was smarter than the taxman. Everything was legal. On paper, he was worth close to zero. In reality, he controlled hundreds of millions. He could disappear tomorrow, and the system would have no one to tax, no one to chase, no one to blame. I don't fight the system, he said once in an interview. I just speak its language better than it speaks mine. Act number 6, what he actually outsmarted. Leon didn't outsmart math, he outsmarted human laziness. Most people hate reading tax codes. He devoured them. Most people see debt as a danger. He saw it as camouflage. The system isn't designed to stop smart people. It is designed to exhaust ordinary ones. The real enemy isn't the bank or the state. It's your own unwillingness to learn the game's rules. Act number 7. Why governments tolerate people like Leon. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Governments could easily close the loopholes Leon used, but they don't. You can ask why. Because those same loopholes are used by the powerful politicians, corporations, so-called the untouchables. Closing them would mean hurting their own kind. So the game stays a giant maze where 98% of people are lab rats, and a few, like Leon, learn to walk above the maze. They are tolerated not because they're invisible, but because they prove the system works exactly as designed. Act number 8. Tactics you can actually learn without being Leon. You may not have Leon's resources, but you can steal his thinking patterns. Here's what he did that anyone can apply in smaller ways. First of all, learn the fine print nobody reads. Tax rules, interest cycles, credit mechanics. Second, find pressure points. Legal pathway designed for corporations but open to individuals. Play timing, not emotion. act when others panic, wait when others rush. Next one, separate ownership from control. Use legal structures to protect what you build. And last one, treat the system like a game, not a god. The financial system is not fair, but it is predictable. Act number 9, the ironic endgame. Leon eventually disappeared from headlines. He never wrote a book, never launched a course, never gave motivational speeches. He didn't need to, because when you outsmart the system, you don't need applause. The last trace of him was a short quote buried in a niche financial magazine. The greatest trick the rich ever pulled was making people believe wealth is about having money. It's about controlling time. Think about that. And the last closing thought, the real system you can outsmart. The system doesn't care if you win or lose. It only cares if you keep playing the wrong game. Leon didn't become a legend because he was lucky. He became a legend because he understood something that took others decades to realize. If you play by the rules they give you, you lose. If you learn the rules behind the rules, you win quietly. In other words, if you wanna outsmart the system, you gotta learn the game first. So the real question isn't, can you outsmart the system? The real question is, are you willing to learn how it actually works? Thank you for listening, and if you like it, smash the like button, subscribe button. See you next time.